And Kevin Abbott from Carleton University. You're a biologist, a fellow at Carleton, and we're going to talk about superstitions. It's Friday the 13th, and interesting studies have been done about superstitions, right?
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of work on it, understanding why superstitions have developed in what we tend to think of as a fairly intelligent species like us. And I mean, superstitions seem kind of silly, but a lot of these studies suggest that they're not actually that silly. It's a pretty complicated world out there. It's pretty hard to know what's true and what's not true. And if you, for any given fact, if you really wanted to know whether it was true, you'd have to spend a long time. For example, if you wanted to know whether rabbit's feet really were lucky, some days you would have to carry a rabbit's foot and see how your day was.
Right.
Next day you wouldn't carry the rabbit's foot and see whether your day was worse or better, and you'd have to do this for a couple months just to know. Or someone's told you that rabbit's feet are lucky, you could pretty cheap to carry them around. You could just put one in your pocket and be done with it, right?
So, and some of them are common sense based, right? Like, do you ever walk under a ladder?
No, I walk around a ladder.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, walking under a ladder is not a smart idea.
Anyway, right.
I mean, the reason it's a superstition is because people have these weird mystical ideas about it that I think the original idea was walking under a ladder somehow had something to do with the devil, and then you're supposed to spit through the rung of the ladder or something like that. So there are these very mystical aspects to it, but nonetheless, it's a very rational thing not to go walking under ladders.
Right.
Rational thinking. I mean, we've been talking about some of our superstitions, and then I just remembered I have 11:11.
So many people do
make
this.
a wish.
You see 11:11 on the clock. And you make a wish.
You make a wish. People lifting their feet over
railroad tracks.
I mean, the list is endless. Where were you basing the research on? Because you were doing it with models, is that right?
Yeah, we were doing it with models, so we're not looking at any specific superstition. It was just a very general thing. We were simulating what it might be like for individuals to learn completely arbitrary relationship between their actions and some outcomes. So we weren't specifically looking at avoiding the number 13 or anything like that. Very
interesting to know that a classic superstition study that animals have exhibited superstitious behavior.
Yeah, so Skinner, probably one of the more famous psychologists, what he would normally do when he was researching is he'd put these pigeons in what are now called Skinner boxes, and the scientist can create a causal relationship for the pigeon to learn. It has to peck on a little disc
to get food.
But this day, for whatever reason, he just gave them food randomly. They didn't have to do anything to get the food. It would appear on a regular basis, and nonetheless, all of them developed these really stereotypical behaviors. One of them would turn around in a clockwise circle repeatedly. One of them kept dipping its head like it was trying to push a lever up, and using very clever approaches.
Interesting.
He was able to show this was actually a learned behavior. It's not, so it was a superstition.
Now, it's interesting, Kevin, that you mentioned there aren't very high costs to doing this. This is why people do it, right? Like, don't go outside without a hat on, you'll catch a cold. Scientific studies have shown you don't catch a cold from being cold, but it's still smart to put a hat on. However, you know this very well, sports guys, and women too, when they're on a winning streak, won't change the socks, and the cost here is very high, in my opinion. The reekage, right?
But it's so psychological, right? You have this connection that if you change something, the outcome will be different.
Well, so you're absolutely right. There's another aspect to this where it actually does kind of affect. Superstitions do have an effect if you believe they have an effect. So
psychologically,
if you don't put the socks on, you might actually do worse in the game. But you were talking about the cost being potentially higher here, and you could make an argument here one way or the other. But the other aspect to that is, at least for these individuals, the benefits are really high. So, I mean, you might get more superstitions with gambling or with high-stakes games. Something where you really want the outcome to happen, you might be willing to engage in a more costly superstition.
Leanne knows any edge of confidence in a competitive environment, you'll take it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you think you've got that mental edge on it, you'll take whatever you can that day.
Hitting her Zen psychology spot, Sarah Freemark having a spa day today at Bay Street in Ember. We're back at the Morning Line after this.